Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Welcome here. We're so happy to have you at our Sisters Chat for October 2025 about travel hacking. My name is Shev. I am the director of the Scuba Mermaids Dive School, which is what organizes these online events. And I have with me Jess Nichols, of course, who is our resident mermaid hobbyist and travel hacker who is going to share her wisdom with us today. So we just like to start these calls off with a little bit of information about the Surface Interval Sisterhood and the Scuba Mermaids Dive School. So we started the Scuba Mermaids Dive School in 2024 in June, doing retreats for women to learn how to scuba. But then we found that we have the Scuba Mermaids, we have the dive school, and unfortunately, but maybe after this call, maybe we'll be able to travel more. But unfortunately, a lot of us can't travel as much as we would like because it is expensive and we don't have the time. So we wanted to find a way to connect with the mermaids in between dive trips. And so that's where the Surface Interval Sisterhood came from. We call it Sisters. I think it's a very clever name. Shannon came up with that. And we meet every month. So we do one of these calls every month about all different kinds of subjects from diving and travel things. And so thank you for being a part of that community. You can find all of our past calls on our YouTube channel, which I'll share in the chat here for you. And yeah, we hope to see you on these calls every month. So our goal was to fill the gaps in diving and education, learn as much as we can, and to stay connected in between dive trips. And we do a few different types of these calls. So this, we do tea time, which is like a casual hangout. Sometimes we do them for different locations, like a Florida call or Central America call or something like that. And then this is more like a course or something we designed to share more information with you in a little bit more structured manner. And then we also do a lot of things focused on conservation. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we have a shark conservation course that we did, turtle conservation, all that kind of stuff. So we try and offer a wide variety of things. We are always open to ideas. If you have something you would like to learn more about, please let me know, and I'll be sharing with you our November call topic at the end of this call. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I'm going to keep everyone on mute for the call just to minimize background noise, and so me and Jess don't get too distracted. We will stop for questions. We will break up the call. If you have a question at any time, please put it in the chat. And if I can't answer it in the moment, or Jess can't answer it in the moment, then we'll come back to it at the end. But if it fits in what we're doing, then we'll try and answer it as we go. And this call is about you. We do these for you. So please interact with us. It's a lot more fun for everyone if you guys chat, use the reactions, let us know you're here and enjoying it and having fun. So without further ado, I would love to introduce you to Jess.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Nichols. I'm one of the mermaids in the group, have been around since 2023. I thought it was 2022, but Shev corrected me, 2023. My first trip with the mermaids was Cozumel. I've done a few other trips, including the Maldives and the Philippines. With all that, I'm really big into traveling with credit card points. I've gotten into a few conversations with mermaids on the trips and was really happy when Shev asked me to put together this little talk here. A little more about me. I'm a PA in El Paso, dog mom, have a husband here too, and that will also be important information for when we talk about travel hacking, because it's all about strategy. So Shev,
I love that I included a picture of your dogs and not your
my
husband.
cute little puppies, yes.
Sorry about that.
Yes. All right, so I'm going to go over a few different topics because I don't know where everyone's knowledge is. So I'm going to start at the beginning with just explaining what points are, how you can get started, how you can start earning points. And then I am going to walk through a couple trip examples, and I am using some of Myra's trips, such as Fiji and Malaysia, so that we can get some real world experience with the goal of hopefully giving Myra some more of our deposits because we get to save some money on our dive trips, okay? So points, basically they're a secondary currency. We basically use credit cards to accumulate points and then use those points to redeem flights or hotels. You can do either one. I am going to be focusing on the flight aspect of portion because for this group, getting through our dive trips, that's going to be the most applicable. But just know you can do either or both, and you can make this work for your everyday lives. The idea is to sign up for a credit card and use your quote unquote everyday spend. The money you would be spending normally on your gas, your groceries, going out to eat, and accumulating points, maximizing that in the best way possible so that when you are ready to travel, you kind of have that currency on hand. I wanted to put this slide in here because I want to make sure, like, number one rule for this to work is to not go into credit card debt. So I think I looked up the average, like even if you have a $5,000 credit card limit with the average interest rate, you could end up paying like $1,350 in credit card fees if you were to max out that credit card and not pay it off. So it kind of makes it not worth it if you go into credit card debt and you're not able to pay off your credit cards. That $1,350, we want to make our money work harder for us, not go into debt over this and kind of render our points useless. So number one, we don't go into credit card debt. We pay off our credit cards every month, or I even make payments twice a month to do this because there's no limitation on how often you can pay off your credit cards. All right, so to get started, I'm gonna wait for Shev. So this is about signing up for a credit card. So when you decide what kind of credit card is right for you, you have to take into account what personally works for you. So for example, I am married, no kids, and then I live in El Paso, which is kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not really near a major airport such as like DFW, LAX, SFO, and all of those things are going to be important when you start figuring out what your credit card strategy is going to be. I equate this credit card program to chess. You kind of have to learn the different players of the game and how each pawn, if you will, moves across the board. And some of that is how this will work for your life. So for me to get from El Paso to say DFW is something I have to consider. And then also what your income is every month. You don't want to sign up for a card that requires you to spend too much money in a given period of time, because then it goes back to we're accidentally getting into debt and it's just not worth it for us. Annual fees is something else we want to consider. So it all just goes into the strategy when we start thinking about what card to sign up for first.
Do like hub airports play into this too? Like what companies are based in different?
Yes. So kind of going back to me being in El Paso, I have made primarily American Airlines, Southwest, Delta, but I don't have like Flying Blue. So me going for Flying Blue points may not always work for me. So that's definitely part of the strategy as well. I think I covered some of this slide too. So again, some things to consider when you think about signing up for the credit card is the annual fees and things like that. The goal to earn those points is to maximize your spend. What that means is you want your groceries not to just get 1 point per dollar. So 100, if you spend $100 at the grocery store and you get 100 points, that's fine, but you can maximize that. Typically, you'll see that they'll advertise, like Amex is very popular for being 4 times on groceries. So you want to find those ways that you can get the most for your gas, get the most for your groceries, any restaurants and deals like that, so that you accumulate those points as quickly as possible, so it's ready for your next trip. There are some shopping portals too that make it easier for you to accumulate points. I listed some popular option here, Rakuten, being associated with Amex. It's known as a cash back type of portal, shopping portal, where you could go on there and it'll say PetSmart, you get 25 times points back for your dog food, but you can actually make it also to give you points back rather than cash back. And each credit card too, like Chase or Amex, will have additional shopping portals or deals on your credit cards online. And if you kind of look through those for things that you normally spend money on, like I use PetSmart, so I buy my dog food there to help maximize my points that I get back on those cards. So going into which card is best for us, the way I like to think about it is that Chase is one of the major programs that has the most flexibility. Shev kind of touched on, do we need to think about what airlines we're kind of going to be following? Yes and no. I try to focus on what credit card points are going to give you the most flexibility and the most adaptability. So Chase is a good program. I put the schematic here so you can see all of the travel partners that Chase can transfer to. So you can use your Chase points for all of these different partners that are listed here. And when we talk about airlines, we see we have United, we have Southwest, we have Iberia, we have British Airways, and this is all going to come into play when we talk about airlines and their partners as well. So Chase is another good program because they have not only flexibility, but they have a lot of card options. I really like them as starter cards. One, because their annual fees are typically low. They have what we call branded and co-branded cards. What that's going to mean is when you sign up for a Chase card, you can typically think about credit cards like the Southwest card or the United card. Those are going to be specific. So when we think about flexibility, you want to go more towards your branded cards, such as the Chase Sapphire Preferred, the Sapphire Reserve, or the Freedom Flex. Now, the reason why I say start with a branded card is because those are the points that you accumulate that get to be transferred to all those partners that we just reviewed. And then the co-branded cards are more specific. So like the Southwest card, you're going to earn Southwest points, which can be great for you. I've done that too to earn the companion pass, for example, but that's only because the Southwest program worked for me and my plan. So if you're just getting started, I would really consider Chase as a starting point. Reason being because of low annual fees, and a lot of these cards can be really high point earners. There's a lot of good sign-up bonuses, which is also something to consider if you're getting into the game and you want to just start accumulating points. The other reason to consider Chase as a first step is they have a 524 rule. What that means is that they're kind of restrictive. When you start getting into this, arguably you will be signing up for credit cards in a responsible manner, but Chase will restrict you to 5 credit cards every 2 years. And then at that point, they will no longer approve you for any Chase cards. So while this may not be a consideration for everybody at the beginning, this is just something to keep in mind. If you find that this hobby is something you really want to get into, that will come into play later on.
Jess, could you tell us quickly what a companion pass is?
Yeah, so the Southwest program, so for those of you who fly Southwest, you can earn enough points. I believe it's 125,000 Southwest points to get something called the Companion Pass. And what that does is it allows you to fly with a companion that you pre-designate for free on any of your flights. And they only charge $5.60 in fees. So if you have a companion pass, you can make it work for you to the point where you could have a companion or a free extra ticket, if you will, for up to 2 years if you plan it appropriately. Any other questions about that?
No, that's cool. That's something so I'm Canadian, which makes this all a little bit more difficult for me, but because of all the same credit cards. But with my Canadian credit card, I get 2 companion passes annually but it's like, they charge $200 for an international flight and $100 for a national flight kind of thing. But
the unfortunate thing with Southwest is they're primarily local. I mean, they do have some flights to Mexico, but that $5.60 is really nice whenever you have that companion.
Yeah. Yeah. It also, I don't know for that too, I find it very restrictive because I don't often fly round trip. So that's another thing, is that if you're flying one way, it's a little more restrictive. But cool. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, and actually I'll touch on that a little bit more too when we get farther in. So the other program I would consider too is Amex. Amex is the other super flexible program. They have a lot of transfer partners similar to Chase. You'll notice that they have a lot of different ones and then also a lot of similar. So if you remember, British Airways was also on Chase. I believe Aeroplan's also on Chase, and Iberia. So it just kind of reflects more flexibility. You want to be able to accumulate the most amount of points that can do the most work for you. So Chase and Amex have the most flexibility, I would say, in regards to different programs. And just like Chase, they have branded and co-branded cards. Branded being their classic green, gold, platinum, and the blue cards. meaning that the points you earn on those cards are going to be the most flexible, most transferable. Their common co-branded cards involve Hilton, Marriott, Delta. Again, you can consider those if that works for you and your personal situation. And then just like the Chase program, they also have rules, not a 524 rule, but they have a low to high rule where if you start with the green card, you can get the sign up bonus and then the gold and then the platinum. But say if you started in the middle, like I did, I got the gold card first and I can't apply for the green one to get that sign up bonus. And I don't think I've explained too, is sign up bonuses is typically when you sign up for the card and you can get a lump sum of points for like X amount of money. So say Chase is 75,000 points for $5,000 spend in 3 months. So part of the strategy when you think about signing up for these cards. Other programs to consider. I usually say Chase and Amex because they're the most flexible. If you want to look into, again, what's specific for you, other valuable programs include Citi, Alaska, which is now Atmos, and then Capital One. All right, so of course we all want to know how we use our points on trips. So some things to consider when you plan your trips is, again, value and what works for you. There are a lot of ways that you can use these points for economy class tickets or business class tickets, if that matters to you. When you start getting into this, you'll notice a lot of influencers will try to upsell and kind of glamorize the travel hacking experience with like airport lounges, 5-star hotels, business class, which is equivalent to first class in a lot of senses. So when I say business class, we're talking about lie flat seats and probably some better quality food, if you will. And those also come with airline access or airport lounge access. So while it's not necessary to kind of fly luxury, it's always an option that you can save for or plan for. All right, so I wanted to use some examples of what I've done with the Marmaid trips. This year, I did do the Philippines trip back in May, as well as the Maldives trip. So I wanted to break down what I did for those trips, and then I'm going to walk you through some future trips that are coming up. So for the Philippines, if you'll see, I went from El Paso to San Francisco, going back to, I'm not at a major hub. There's no nice business class flights flying out of El Paso. So I have to do what's called a positioning flight, meaning I need to get to a major airport somehow. And because I have a spouse, I have found value in the Southwest program. I've gotten the Southwest Companion Pass, so I had Southwest points. I used those points to get me to San Francisco to then get to my Manila flight to the Philippines. I used American Airlines points to get me to the Philippines at 70,000 miles and only $26 in fees, and that was a business class flight. From Manila back to San Francisco, it was a Cathay flight, which is a partner, I believe, of Amex is how I booked that. So Amex points went to Cathay, and then San Francisco to El Paso again was Southwest. So I broke down my points that I used. I used 209,842 points and only $117 in fees, and then broke down the cash price. I quickly looked that up. So approximately economy is $1,200, and then the business class equivalent would have been $4,250. Now, the 200,000 points sounds like a lot, but if you start getting into this, you start accumulating this pretty passively to where this becomes pretty doable. I would say it probably took me about a year to accumulate that many points just for that one trip. But again, I'm kind of on a rolling basis now that I have enough points for the year ahead. The Maldives, similar situation.
Separately, Jess? Like, did you book your?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So you kind of have to create your own itinerary when you start booking redemption flights. That you kind of trade some convenience with that to get the deals. So you kind of have to create your own itinerary based on where you live and what points redemptions are there. So San Francisco is just easier for me. There's some other options of who goes to Manila is like JFK. So you kind of learn what airlines go where and which point redemptions there are, and then you can kind of piece together, which is part of the planning portion that we'll get into too. The Maldives, similar situation. I went from El Paso to Dallas, Dallas to Male, Male to DFW, and DFW back to El Paso. So you'll see that I was American Airlines. That first flight, I paid cash. It wasn't worth the points. $100 was not a big deal. And then the Iberia and Qatar, those were also Amex points via transfer partners, like on that schematic we saw a few slides ago. And then again, American back from DFW to El Paso. A little bit less for the Maldives in regards to points, right? 130,000 points, but higher fees. So I paid $553. But this was a business class flight, which was really nice. This was on the Qatar Q Suites, which is a very nice product. And then again, I put the equivalent breakdowns for economy and business. But also I'd be interested to see if anyone's also done these trips that are in the group and how much you guys probably paid for your flights. If you're willing to share that information, it would be good, some good feedback to see if you think it would be worth the time and the effort to accumulate the points and then get these redemptions. Okay, so Malaysia. I know there's a lot of people, like 60 people, Shev?
44.
44. So 44 people are going to Malaysia. So I wanted to kind of give a breakdown on how you could plan for Malaysia. So I preemptively did some searching. I'm going to kind of walk you through it. So we're trying to get to Kuala Lumpur. However, getting directly there is on points is a little difficult because it seems like it's a smaller airport. So the closest thing I found for points redemptions that seemed to be worth it was Singapore. So the goal is flying from the States to Singapore and then taking a local flight from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur. If I'm pronouncing that correctly. I believe it's an hour-long flight from Singapore to Malaysia. So I was looking at business class. You can always do economy, and this is usually easier to do because there's a lot more seats available, but I think it's just exciting to plan for a business class flight. So we are leaving on a departure of the 15th to give you time to get there. I found some award availability in Chicago and Washington to Singapore for 110,000 flights on United. So those are Chase points. And then Air Canada also had some availability from Chicago to Singapore for slightly less at 87,500 points. And again, Chase is one of those transfer partners, Amex, Capital One, and then I found some returns as well that we'll get to. So on the 17th too, that local flight was about $54. So we're talking what, maybe $275 max for a business class flight if we have those points. And this is a one-way. So again, we have to plan our route from beginning to end from the States to Malaysia. Let me see. So how you go about figuring this out. What I would recommend if you're getting started is first focus on your strategy. Maybe think about a trip a year from now and start thinking about what cards would work for that trip and how you can start accumulating points for that trip. Once you get to the point of like, oh, okay, I have a trip in mind, but I don't really know what flights to book, then there's a ton of resources. So I would just simply Google Singapore, or I started with Kuala Lumpur, but let's do Singapore on points and miles. The website I have here is Upgraded Points. It's a really great resource, and I will have a whole page of resources for you here at the end so that you guys can kind of find the information is out there. The thing to know with this is that these trips have been done, these plans have been made, somebody has done this before, so you don't really have to reinvent the wheel. So before I get into this, I think I'm getting a little winded or over talking. So does anyone have any questions right now before I start getting into the details of how to plan the actual trips? Go ahead and type it in the chat.
Yeah, Kim, you can ask too if you like.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm on my tablet and I can't find where the chat
Oh,
is. Um,
good.
so thanks for letting me come off mute. Chev, I'm also in Canada. I don't know if you find what I do, but I do maximize my spend. I use my credit cards for absolutely everything. And I am not racking up anywhere near as many points annually as what you're saying. So I don't know if Canadian credit cards just don't have as many rewards.
Mhm.
I don't cancel cards and rejoin. I do have a couple that I sort of maximize, but my question is, because I'm not racking up those kind of points and I am already maximizing my spend, is there a way when I'm booking my trips that I can use like 50,000 points from one card and 25,000 points from another card and combine them together if I don't have like 100,000 points all on one card?
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good question. Do you happen to know what kind of brand cards you have? Because I may be able to better help with that.
So
Aeroplan's a big one in Canada.
yeah,
Aeroplan.
so I have an RBC Avion card, which is for all different types of flights. I also
Mhm.
have a co-branded WestJet, a co-branded Porter,
Mhm.
um, and um, and that's it as far as actual travel specific ones.
Yeah, and that's a good point you bring up. Now, the problem, though, I will be honest, like I'm not as well versed as Canadian credit cards and the programs they have there. And that's too why I mentioned the branded versus the co-branded cards that have more flexibility. There is a way that you can combine, but it all depends on the transfer partners and what you're trying to do. So for example, if we go back,
Mhm.
let me see.
And I think
So like if we go back to like the Maldives and the Philippines trip slide, you can kind of see that I booked on different, right? I did Iberia and Qatar and Cathay, and those in and of themselves, like Aeroplan Air Canada actually has a lot of flexibility that usually what I would suggest is if you look at Aeroplan, and I'll kind of, when we go more further in the Malaysia trip, I'll show you this resource. When you look for award availability on Aeroplan, they actually post flights from other partners. So you can arguably use your points on those programs. It's just a matter of finding it. That's the hard part. So what I would suggest is kind of seeing what points you do have, finding the trip you want, and then kind of doing the search. And I'm going to get into resources here soon to see if you can combine those points for a specific trip. Because I think what you'll end up being able to do is transferring the points you have to a singular partner, such as Qatar or Iberia, and then being able to lump your points from there.
Okay, thank you.
I will say Aeroplan, Kimmy, is much more useful than Avion, I have found.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's tough. It's not the same for us, for sure.
Yeah. And then, so I have another question too from Erica saying that you're in the States and you don't earn that many points and you're only using the Venture X. A lot of the points earning, and that's what I say too, is focus on that first off. I'm going to give you resources at the end that goes more into detail, more than what I have time for here. But there are ways that you can basically be earning probably about anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 points a month easily. It just depends. And then a lot of this is the sign-up bonuses because you get a big chunk all at one time. There's a lot of hacks with earning points, and it's really a matter of understanding your spend, like I use the dog food example, and knowing what resources are out there to maximize that. Like I can get 25 times points on my dog food from PetSmart, but that's only occasionally, and that's only through a certain shopping portal. So it's kind of going back into researching how can I get the most points for every single dollar that I spend. So even before we think about redeeming, I would look into, with the resources I give you, how we can kind of get that increase back or maximize that further. And then, yeah, the rent, Kat, you mentioned the Built card. That's really awesome. I have a mortgage. I'm hoping they're adding to that. So Denise, you said cash and travel points, but you get cash back on your credit card purchases. You can do either. It's up to you if you prefer. A lot of this is how much time do you want to spend on this? It's my hobby. I really enjoy following. I'm on Facebook pages, Instagram pages, social media to kind of see what points deals are out there at any given time, what spending deals are out there at any given time. If you prefer to have the cash back, you can use that cash back and just pay cash for your flights. You can also see if that cash back can be converted into points and then see if you actually get more value. Like say instead of $1,000 in cash back is actually worth like 2,500 in points. So there's that possibility there. Delta Amex Platinum. So the Delta.
Sorry, Jess, if I might. I have a business background, and I find it helpful to remember that businesses want to keep your money any way they can. So they will always give you more money in points than they would ever give you in cash. Like they hold the real money close and are happy to extend, because also we have to remember that a lot of people will never use them or touch them or know what to do with them. And so if you keep that mindset, it also helps as you're starting to learn all these things.
Well, and they want you to earn interest so that you're going into credit card debt because they make money off of that. And then there's a lot of traps. Like if you go onto the Amex portal and you want to book a flight through there, it's going to cost you like $500,000 in points or what have you, something ridiculous. So they're going to make you waste your points and not really get the most bang for your buck too. So there's a lot of nuances there. So a lot of this is kind of research and figuring out what works for you and your lifestyle, because the idea is to make your income go farther. We all work a lot. We don't need to work more. And then our PTO is precious, so we want to maximize what we already do.
But also, I think it's a good disclaimer, like this is also work, like it's research and time. And so if it's not for you, like if you're just like not interested, then find another way to make the trips more affordable,
and that's why the cash back, if that's better for you. My husband cannot be bothered to do any of this, but he will indulge me when I'm like, use this card for groceries. So, but that's about all the effort he will put into it. So it really is dependent on the person.
Cool. Did you want to share your screen now, Jess? Or not
yet? Let me do this. Okay. So when we go back to planning Malaysia, let me go back here. I lost our spot. And I forgot how to share my screen. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to this first, which is so when we talk about Malaysia, and we're trying to figure out how we can get there. I just used Upgraded Points, which is a very popular website, and it will do a walkthrough step-by-step of what airlines even go to your destination that you want, who are their travel partners, what credit cards can you get to earn those points, and how can you redeem that. So let me share this. Sorry, guys, I'm not very good at technology. Okay. All right, Shev, can you see this Upgraded Points website?
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
So when we Google this Upgraded Points website, it does a step-by-step. So I came here when we were talking about Malaysia, and just kind of went down through the different programs. So they basically say to get from North America to Singapore, these are our hubs. So if anyone here is kind of close or can kind of get to Los Angeles, Newark, New York, JFK, SFO, or Seattle, like these are the things you're going to want to pay attention to. Okay, so you're going to start looking for flights in these major hubs to get us to Singapore. It mentions Air Canada, Singapore Airlines, United Airlines, and then there's, again, Singapore Airlines. As you scroll down further, it'll give you a step-by-step by program. So this goes over the Singapore KrisFlyer, which is kind of a harder one to go through directly. They'll give you points breakdowns on how much it typically costs, which this is very expensive. and just to kind of get an idea of where to start, like what partners do I need to start with, what locations do I need to start with. So for the sake of time, I have I'm going to share this next one. I also have a resource called seats.aero. Now you can go to individual travel partners, say Air Canada, and you can look for flights on the Air Canada website and look for whatever it had said. So it started with Air Canada at the beginning, and it said that Air Canada from Vancouver goes to Singapore. However, this resource called seats.aero will let you look at reward flights based on the travel partners. So this can be free. It will allow you to look for reward availability up to 3 months or 60 days, as you can see here. I pay for the full one just because I do this all the time. I think it's less than $10 a month. But what I did is I went to United, okay? And then I looked for Chicago and Washington to Singapore, and there is a business class redemption here. Now it did also mention, because if we remember from that other slide, there was the Air Canada, which we also saw on the Upgraded Points website. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So if we go to seats.aero and we look at the Air Canada Explore button, and we can designate North America to anywhere, and once it loads, you can further narrow it down to Asia. And then I'm going to just put the full year so that we have that option. And if we remember the different hubs that we saw, but let me see, we're going to arrive in Singapore. This site is really useful because essentially what it does is it shows you all of the award availability, and you can search in different methods. So what I did here is I looked at Air Canada, trying to get me to Singapore, and it already pulls up like different departure dates, and you can further narrow that down. I had preemptively looked in preparation and found that Washington and Chicago were available. So we're gonna just do that. And of course, when I look for it, it's no longer here. So really what happens is the award availabilities get booked up. I think I had messaged a couple people, but if you look here, there is one from Newark in not the correct dates, but it gets us to Singapore for about 87,000 points and $79 in fees. That's the other thing you want to pay attention to, because you don't want to end up paying a bunch of money in fees. And then if you then click the information button on the right, it will tell you where you can book this through. So if you remember from Upgraded Points, they mentioned that Singapore Airlines, which I just know that this little emblem is Singapore Airlines, has that booking. So this is kind of where it gets confusing, because we've been talking about credit cards, their partners, the flights, the different airlines and their partners, and this is kind of where they all come together. If you remember from the Chase and the American Airlines little schematics at the beginning, is you saw all of those transfer partners, and you can see, if we can go back to the slides, Shev, because I don't know how.
All good.
So yeah, so we started with that, and then the next one. So when we think about the credit cards and their partners, you also have to think about airlines and their partners. So when I looked at Singapore, I found that they were primarily a Star Alliance program, meaning that all of these airlines can get you to Singapore or to get you onto a Singapore flight. So the easiest thing was Air Canada, which was Chase and Amex, remember? And then also like another popular one I saw in here, the Singapore Airlines, United. So even if you just know that, United and Air Canada will have these bookings all on their websites. So it's kind of part of learning how you can put together your credit card partners with the airline partners, if that makes sense.
So this was something that helped me a lot because, as I said, I'm Canadian and I also travel mostly in Central America with a lot of different airlines. And so what I did is I made little things on my phone, groupings of the airline apps and by these alliances. So like now at least, you know, I fly like Copa to Roatan, and then I'm going to fly like Eva Air to, I've flown with them from Vancouver to Thailand. Then at least I can use the same rewards points numbers usually on all these partners and like consolidate your points a little better without a credit card, like just through the actual booking.
And there's a lot of like links, like you can link American Airlines to Hyatt, and like there's just so many inter-program relationships that you have to just start learning about. And like you said, the more you fly with the different programs and you learn the names, then you can learn how to make it work for you specifically.
Because these each also have their lounges and everything at the airport. So then like, you know, once you're in an Amex, an American Airlines, whatever they call it, Prestige or whatever, you can go into any of the One World lounges. So
well, and this goes back to like getting the most flexible points like Amex and Chase. Like you can transfer to so many different areas, and you may not know exactly the value of your points just because there's so many ways to use them.
Awesome.
So again, this is going back to me seeing that United was part of that, was it Star Alliance on that last one? So I had found Washington, JFK, Chicago to Singapore, again, 110,000 points. Now that was a little bit more expensive than the Air Canada ones, but again, it just depends on what points you have and what may work for you or what airport may work for you too. This is the Air Canada Aeroplan. This was all the award availability I saw. And this was specifically for the Malaysia dates. So again, Chicago, Newark, JFK. I don't know if anyone's going to be flying from Canada, but just an option there to look if you're trying to get to Malaysia. And then the same thing with the return. There was Air Canada availability and United availability. Going back to Air Canada, you can transfer points from Amex, Chase, or Capital One. I think I saw a comment about somebody with Capital One points. And then United is primarily Chase, or if you have a United card, it's a great way to use those points too. Fiji. So Fiji is another one that I wanted to look up for the group too. We have our dates from July 4th through 11th. Our destination airport is the NAN airport. And the major, again, I went to upgradedpoints.com and I just said credit card points and miles. How do I get to Fiji? And these were the major airports that get you to Fiji is DFW, LAX, SFO, and Honolulu. I don't know if anyone can use Honolulu, but that would be awesome because there's a lot of availability from Honolulu.
Maybe add in a little layover.
Yeah, extra time if you got some extra PTO. So again, I use that same upgraded points, and they kind of walk you through the different partners. I found Cathay Pacific had some points redemptions to Fiji from LAX to directly to Fiji at 89,000 and 115,000 points. And then American Airlines was putting out a lot of articles about the 70,000 miles, which I thought was a better use of the points. Now, they only had up to about 6 months in advance, so we're not quite at July, but if you are going, that's something I would watch out for is American Airlines releasing that availability from I think it was primarily LAX to Australia. There was a couple other airports like Brisbane that they might have, but you can easily position again from Brisbane to Fiji. Okay, and again, using the points or the airline partners, going back, or did you skip forward? So this one was Fiji Airways is the primary one that gets us to Fiji. That's a One World Alliance one. So again, American Airlines, they're going to be selling you the Fiji flights. So you can easily, if you don't want to do Seats Aero, you don't want to pay for anything, American Airlines is really easy to search on their award calendars. When you go to AmericanAirlines.com, just say redeem miles when you look for flights. And you do have to search these one way at a time. You can't really switch or search a round trip flight, you have to start with like, I want to go LAX to Fiji, and then you have to plan your return. But American Airlines has a really good calendar that shows you all of the transfer partners.
And how far in advance do you usually book these, Jess?
It depends. So Asia is a tough one that usually is better a year. So they say like Japan is a classic example where they say either you need to plan a year in advance or like 2 weeks in advance, which is terrifying. But it all, like Europe is very popular for all kinds of deals. It looks like Fiji is about 6 months. So this kind of goes, I think there's a lot of trends in points and miles where you kind of start seeing different times of year and different sales going on for different programs. So it just depends. I would say if you can just get in the habit of looking up the award availability and getting used to finding it, then it makes it much less stressful. And then you can kind of watch it for a while and see like, is this a good deal or not? Do I really want to spend my points on this or not? And then you kind of learn one, what's worth it, and when the deals happen. So this was the Fiji availability. Now, again, this isn't the correct dates because they weren't out yet for July, but I was noticing that they were releasing award availability at that 70,000 points about 6 months in advance. So I think around January, February, we'll see some July availability. And then just keep in mind those airports like LAX, DFW, and then again, there's Brisbane availability. And then two, there's economy flights. I mean, if you don't even care about the business class aspect of things, the economy flights are there too. And this was, again, just more availability, but economy, but for the correct dates. So if we work backwards when we think about the program, sorry, I'm trying to read the comments. So when we talk about planning your points, it's knowing those partners. So when we talk about Fiji, we saw points redemptions from American Airlines, Cathay, and then I found some Alaska availability too, and it's knowing those. So working backwards, we want to think about the credit cards that would get us American Airlines points, which would be Citi, Cathay, which would be Capital One, Amex, and Citi, because that's a transfer partner with American Airlines again. And then Alaska has their own program, which is now Atmos. So thinking about the credit cards you want to sign up for. And then finally, Galapagos. I just did a quick one here because I didn't think I would have too much more time. We have flights from United, American Airlines, and Delta that all go to the Galapagos. So if you want to start planning a trip to the Galapagos, I would start looking at credit cards such as Chase, Amex, Delta, and Citi to see what works for you. All right, so just to kind of wrap it all up, I tried to make this as simple as possible. If nothing else, just understanding the possibilities of these points redemptions, because it's a lot of information and it can be very overwhelming and confusing at first. I will say it's become a little bit more passive for me, but I really do enjoy searching for this stuff and then getting these redemptions. So it definitely does have to be something you enjoy doing, or at least feel like the juice is worth the squeeze. So if you're getting started, I would start with one card, focus on that, get the sign up bonus, make sure the annual fee works for you, and make sure it's within your spending, and then try and figure out how we can get the most amount of points for your everyday spend, which definitely is really hard. And then once you get that down, you get a habit, you know what card, if you're using that card for your gas, groceries, everyday spend, then think about your second card for that next sign up bonus. And then to kind of like get you on a rolling, because we want to keep earning points, they say that you shouldn't apply for a credit card more than every 3 months. If you start applying, some of these programs will shut you down. They will close out all your accounts. It's not inherently illegal to be earning points, but they discourage being obviously churning of points. There's a ton of tools and strategies out there. Again, I'm going to put resources at the end because this is just so much information to put in this one little chat that I just want to show you the possibilities again. And then just know that your strategy matters. If you have a business, you can maximize this with business credit cards. If you have a partner or spouse, they can be a player too, meaning they can also sign up for credit cards, maximizing more points. And then when you start kind of looking at people who do this as their job, just know that they are trying to influence you. They do want you to sign up for the card. They are going to advertise the latest and greatest. But that credit card may not be part of your plan. It may not be the card that gets you to Singapore. It may not be the card that gets you to the Galapagos. So there's not really a point for you to sign up for that card unnecessarily. And then again, there's so much out there that it can be done and it can be figured out. Like I said, somebody's done this trip before. And then just some FYI, there's a lot of lingo when you start reading social media, like P1, P2 meaning player 1 and player 2. My husband would be player 2. Sign-up bonuses being the lump sum of points when you sign up for a card. Social media will refer to Chase as the blue card because they can't really advertise Chase outside of Chase. And there's just a lot of lingo involved. So just that will be part of the learning curve as well. And then I'm going to leave the resources page up here. I'll go through it real quick and then I'll start answering questions. I know I'm getting kind of short on time. So if you are starting at the beginning and you want all the details about how all of this works, the my10xtravel.com is a self-guided free course that goes into way more details than what I've done here. Upgraded Points is that website I use a lot just to kind of get an idea of how I'm even supposed to start understanding how to get to a certain location. And then if you do start applying for more than one card, this Travel Freely app will help you keep track of when you sign up for a card, when you got a sign up bonus, to keep you on track and not signing up too often or waiting too long. Facebook, Instagram, whatever you prefer. I try to add influencers that I actually feel post quality content that is useful. So we'll leave this up here for questions. I'm going to back up in the chat a little bit and kind of start from the top. Shev, do you have anything to say before we start going to questions?
Nope. I think you covered everything. I would just say that it's a lot. It's a lot. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed,
yeah, I tried to keep this as simple as possible, but also give you quality information because we want to know how to get to Fiji. We want to know how to get to Malaysia and all these trips for Myra. So just know that there's more information and it's digestible, I promise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that will leave the event open on Facebook. So if you want to interact and ask questions in the next coming weeks, you can do that. We'll save this recording, put it on YouTube. I'll share the link, and then you can see the slides and stuff again. And then Jess and I were talking about doing a follow-up call in a couple of months, where we can do another Q&A and see where people are at.
Yep. Or if you have questions, I really don't mind if anyone reaches out to me. Going into the chat, I see that Alana is asking about taxes and fees being high, if it's worth it to use the points, if you have to pay those fees. So yeah, the annual fees, I'm going to assume you're talking about the annual fees with the cards. Those can get expensive and pricey. I'll be honest, I think I have 10 or 11 credit cards in total. My annual fees are probably close to $1,000 now, but I get that value out of my travel every year. So I get way more than $1,000 worth of travel reimbursement. I have the Southwest Companion Pass. I'm probably traveling every 2 months at this point. So it depends if it's worth it to you. The easiest example I have is there is a hotel, a lot of the hotel cards are a $95 annual fee, but some of them will come with a free hotel night. Well, you can easily do one hotel night a year, and for $95, that sounds pretty worth it to keep the card open. So it just matters if it's worth it and if you can get the value out of the card.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hotels you can get for under $100 now.
Shopping portals, there's a lot of resources. I like Rakuten, and then I go directly to the credit cards. Like Chase will have little deals, you can get 3% back on what have you, and it changes every month. There's a lot of apps like Card Pointers will kind of keep track of everything because it does take looking through the portals a lot. I don't cancel cards a lot because somebody said, do you cancel cards after some time? I do if I don't need the card anymore, but I always wait at least 1 year. So I will keep a card open for at least 1 year before I ever think about closing it. And then sometimes if you don't want to pay the annual fee, but you also don't want to close the card, you can usually reach out to the credit card company and be like, oh, I'm not really getting the value out of it. And sometimes they'll waive it for another year. So you can kind of have it for free for another year. Doesn't always happen, but just a little side note. Okay, any other questions for anyone? I hope I was at least somewhat helpful and straightforward, given the content and the quantity of information. But I really enjoy everyone that came in too. I've been super nervous about this talk.
No, you did great. I think a good just recap maybe for everyone is just like the first thing you need to do is research where you are and where you're going, right? So
Yeah.
Find your hubs, find what airports are easy for you to get to, and then go from there and use those infographics that she had of the partnerships to use that as your baseline.
Yep. And I'm in the Little Mermaid group. If you guys have any specific questions about what you have and if it can work for you, I'm happy to answer any questions. But again, those resources are really great. If you just start passively following people, that's the best way to learn.
Yes, for sure. And the Facebook groups are so informative. And I started that course that she shared too, the free 10 times course, just help you understand how the system works, right? Yeah. And then you can figure out how to make it work for you.
Yep, it's free, it's available for you, it's self-guided, it's really detailed, it's nice.
Yeah. And our little drum roll, please. Our next chat for November is going to be one that I get asked a lot about as well, almost as exciting as this one. But next month, we'll be talking about packing for your dive trips. This is probably my second most asked question.
We'll do minimalist packing.
Is how to pack for dive trips, especially we have Mozambique coming up, which is very limited. I love the reactions. Thank you guys. Very limited luggage allowances because it's like a road trip. So we're gonna be talking about that. And yeah. I also wanted to just remind you all of the other stuff we have covered over the past year and a half we've been doing these calls. And they're all available on our YouTube channel, except for there's a couple of paid courses that you can get. But everything's on our website, marmotrips.com. And then we have our Scuba Mermaids area of the website. Please keep in touch. We are on Instagram and Facebook, of course. As I said, the event in Scuba Mermaids Dive School is a great place to ask your questions, because if you have a question, other people probably have it too. So then Jess can respond there for everyone and share the info that she has. Thank you so much, Jessica. This was great. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I'm so glad that everyone came to listen to me. I hope I was a little helpful or maybe motivated some people to kind of get involved.
Yeah, and thank everyone for staying for the whole hour. This is awesome.
Yeah,
and we will see you next month. Thank you.
Okay, bye, everybody.